Yes, as I was saying about the institutionalized racism, I've seen several articles over the past 3 years popping up about what people are experiencing either at school or in the workplaces.
Right.
And there's one particular young man that I remember that he went to school in England, and they told him that he couldn't attend school unless he cut off his locks or don't or he's not allowed in the school. There's a 6-year-old child who just recently she was told she either had to cut off her hair, cover it up, or not allowed in school. And there was another incident the other day with a young lady as well that were told the same thing. Christine, what do you think might be the issue behind this or the concern about why these institutions are not accepting or here? Like, why do you think this may be?
Well, I think that particular question is a very multifaceted one. But one of the ways that we can look at this or begin to address this issue is the fact that we need to bring light to the fact that European beauty markets, they have monopolized our culture, and that there are perpetual notions of idealized beauty that we see in terms of when you purchase hair care products, skincare products. A lot of these things are centered around the dominant culture, which is Eurocentricity. Anything that deviates from the dominant culture is seen as like a subculture. It's seen as, inferior, not superior to what is dominant, what is pervasive. And a lot of these ideas about beauty, about hair specifically, they fall within Eurocentricity. It doesn't fall within non-white communities or non-white bodies. So natural hair, kinky hair, dreadlocks, these are all things that are seen as contrary to what standardized beauty is supposed to be, what standardized and acceptable beauty is supposed to represent in society. So when a black person, black female, black male decides to grow their hair, lock their hair, wear their hair natural, embrace aspects of who they are and their cultural identity, it's seen almost as I wouldn't say as a disrespect, but it's seen as something that deviates away from what is normative.
And it's funny that you say that because I've seen a lot of dreadlocks here that I've known, and for some reason now their hair is cut off. And I'm saying to myself, why would they do that? But I guess because of how society looks on them, and maybe in terms of maybe going out to look at a job, maybe just being accepted in society. Maybe they figure they're not going to be accepted, and that's why they take that drastic move in terms of cutting the locks off or cutting whatever, or even people straightening their hair is another issue, right? Because based on what you're saying, society wants that specific look, right? To maybe represent their company or maybe represent their organization. So if the straight hair is not there, then it's a big taboo, and they may be looking at even the higher people in their company, like presidents who may be coming to visit, seeing this um, person of color with this ear type or hair structure, they figure, oh, you shouldn't be seen. Even if you're going to be here, especially in that position, you need to be behind the scene, not in the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And it's a sad situation because with our younger generation that's coming up, a lot of them now, especially the girls, they're into a lot of weaves. And it's bad. Even last night, my daughter, one of her friends called, her entire hairline is gone because of the lace front, right? And it may not grow back, because that's what, once your cuticle is messed up, it's hard to get, you're going to lose it, it's damaging, and we have to be careful what we use, and sometimes they're using the glue, and it's not hair glue. It
Oh,
could
I
be
see.
nail glue
Right.
or something, and they're not telling you because sometimes it's a cheaper way out. And another thing, if someone is not professional in terms of study. Like myself, I've been you went to school and study the composition of hair, what it does, how you should maintain it, and stuff like that. If you just because what I find with a lot of young girls today, they're very good stylists in terms of enhancement, in terms of weaving, but in terms of natural hair care, they don't they don't know how to to treat hair
Right,
naturally,
natural hair.
and that's also another problem.
So that even speaks to the fact of, just using your example, if a lot of black girls and black women are not aware, they have limited cognizance of how to maintain natural hair, how to take care of natural hair, and it speaks to a larger issue, just how pervasive Eurocentric beauty standards have become. We've internalized these messages to the point where we need to look a certain way, we need to conform. So that means we're going to straighten our hair, we're going to wear wigs, we're going to wear weaves, we're going to do all these things to kind of suppress our identity, to suppress our naturalness. And at first, I just want to start off by saying that I'm in no way coming down on anyone who wears wigs or weaves. I'm not a regulator of how black women should carry themselves, what they should wear on their heads. But I think it would be very remiss of me to not state the fact that oftentimes, especially black women that I've had in my life and black women that I've been around, wear these, Eurocentric enhancements because of issues of wanting to conform, issues of wanting to be accepted, not wanting to deviate away from normativity. And if we're doing it for those reasons, I think it's a very perilous position that we've placed ourselves in. If we're doing it because, okay, you know what, it's just convenient, I love my natural hair and I wear my natural hair, but sometimes I gotta go quickly, I'll fling on that weave or whatever the case may be, then by all means, I think that whatever we're doing, it's extremely critical that we're doing it because we're doing it for ourselves and not because of what society tells us to do. We shouldn't be dictating ourselves and our movements in accordance to how the dominant culture should perceive us.
Well, you know what? Maybe back where we're from or where I'm from, Jamaica, it's a different society there, because I've gone there, I've seen women, braiding their hair, as we would say, plaiting it, the African way. Even the other day I was thinking, I remember as a child growing up, we used to, if we went to school, the way our hair were combed, like for example, cup and saucer. So we had a style called cup and saucer, meaning that our parents would make a circle at the crown of your head,
Yeah.
and then around it you have the different braids or plaits. There was style to that. There was another one called something beggarman teeth or something. I forgot what it is, but because it's been a long time. But these are the things that we were brought up on. I remember my daughter, once she got to elementary, there was an issue there with bubbles. No, we were brought up with bubbles, in our hair because it was nice. You're going to school, children are in their ribbons,
Right.
matching their uniform. This is what we were growing up as young kids. However, here, you put that in a child's hair, it becomes an issue,
Yes.
right? They start making fun of them and stuff like that. So again, as society, there's a lot that we're enduring, and our children, are enduring. And I'm hoping that if many other women could maybe we're more natural, so society can see that's how we are. We cannot change our hair, that we were born that way with it. So there's nothing we can do.
And that shift is slowly starting to emerge. And if you even just look at history, in the 1960s when white women were becoming obsessed with the hourglass figure, and then, with black women, it's like, no, that natural hair, the afro. So there was like a resistance movement. There was like an expression against oppression that was starting to emerge. And even now, like I'm so impressed to see that in our contemporary social world, there's so many black youths that are embracing their natural hair. A lot of the schools that I go to, where I'm currently working, I see like even like black boys like growing back their gumbies and bringing their hair natural. A lot of black girls in plaits, and you know, sometimes just kind of talk to them like, you know what, that's
Nice,
interesting. I really
nice.
like your hair.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what made you to do this? Like, for them, it's just like, why
It's
wouldn't
just
I
a
do
norm.
this?
It's just a
right.
norm. Yeah.
There is nothing
Yeah.
to think about. So I feel that this generation, there's a heightened awareness and there's a movement of embracing.
I'm bringing you yourself back to reality, because I think in our time, I remember here in Canada, teenager, when somebody wears a wig, you thought of them being Asian, like, and they look so weird when you see someone in a wig. Now, it's totally different.
Yeah.
I met a young lady years ago at a beauty supplier, and she said she's been wearing a weave since she was 14, and she would never change. So, and I think that comes from the parents,
Right.
you know, because allow them, and I see a lot of parents now too, black parents, who are letting their children go with just their hair slicked back, natural hair,
Yeah.
and it looks nice.
Absolutely.
So I think that's one of the things now we have to start pushing our youths and encouraging our youths. Be proud of your locks or your hair, because it was given to you.
Absolutely.
I was doing some research last night and to find out that it's found that our hair is one of the dominant hair there is. And I think for that reason is because we can do anything, right?
Yeah.
Because today you'll see us with this hair, and tomorrow it's a total transformation.
Yeah, it could be easily manipulated, absolutely.
Yes, and I remember I used to work at this company. This is 9 years. And I had a supervisor there that I worked in the office, and I used to change my hair every week. You know, no, every 2 weeks, because that's when I got paid. So every time I go in on a Monday, my hair is always changed. And he says to me one day, I don't know how your husband keeps up with you, because your husband could never be bored because you always have a different hairstyle.
Right.
You know, so it's the perception. And some people may ask, how long did that take to do, when it was just something that took like half an hour? So it's just understanding the concept of our hair, and we need to push that more, especially with the younger generation. But going back to the institution, with, as you talked about earlier, with their perception and what they're looking for in terms of their company, in terms of representation. Do you think there might be a solution with somebody going in, like if they're going to hire a person of color? Do you think that should we approach them when we go into these places, so that in the end, if you decided to change, because you may go in with a wig on your head, right? Or a weave, and you're placed in this high position, and one day you decided, you know what, something may happen and I want to change. Should you inform them before you start about your if they have any stipulation, if it's in their bylaw about adornment with your hair, how could we address an issue like that?
Well, you see, when it comes to like any corporation, any organization, they have like particular like codes of conduct. They have standards and procedures, and any employee should familiarize himself with that. When it comes to hair, I think it's almost asinine, quite frankly absurd, to have to feel that, okay, if I came into this organization and I was wearing a long weave or a long wig, and then maybe a few months or a couple of years later down the line, I decided to change my mind and I just wanted to embrace my natural hair, knowing that there could be a potential penalization for that shift, or that you have to consult your superiors because you want to no longer wear it. I think that speaks to something that's even deeper. It goes beyond just corporate policy. Now we're talking about something that is institutionalized. Now we're talking about structural and systemic racisms. And these are things that we need to address. We need to have these critical conversations that are often difficult to discuss, but they're necessary to know. And I think the first step would be any Black woman that's going into a place of employment to obviously familiarize yourself with the company standards and their procedures that they have in place. But I don't feel it would be necessary to consult with your boss about changing your hair. If you even would just stop and think about that. For example, if you, just take you as example, you went to work today and, you're wearing your long hair right now. And then say next week you want to wear something short or you want to go natural. The fact that you'd have to consult with your boss about that, it speaks to something very deeper, something that speaks to the fact of the regulation of Black women's bodies.
So a bit more personal, you're saying?
I'm saying that's a personal choice.
No, I'm talking where the boss is concerned.
Where the boss is concerned, I don't feel it's necessary to have to consult with your boss, I'm going to change my hair, I'm going to make some sort of modification to it. If it's something that you're shaving your head and you're going to do a tattoo all over, then that's very different. Exactly, that's extreme. But if you're changing it and it looks representable, it looks normal, I don't see the reason why you would have to feel the need to consult with your employer. And if you feel the need to have to consult with your employer, and if your employer is engaging in this dialogue like it's something critical to discuss, then we need to really talk about something that's much deeper here at play.
And I'm going to agree with you there, but it's just that in the past 3 years, all these situations, similar, that keeps popping up out of nowhere, leading to the same situation. Either they're getting lawsuits, like people are taking them to the labor board or to human rights or something like that. It shouldn't have been.
It shouldn't have been, but it is absolutely a human rights violation.
It's crazy, and
it's another way of saying you don't belong. You need to conform. If you deviate from that path, there will be ramifications for it. That's exactly what it is. It's discrimination played out and reared its head in a multitude of ways. And regulating Black hair is one of the ways that institutions could exercise that agency. No, you need to present yourself in a particular way, and failure to do that, failure to comply, there will be consequences. And this is where we need to speak to these issues of discrimination.
Exactly. Or could it be that it's something they want to get rid of an individual, and maybe that's one reason?
It could be a multitude
getting rid of them.
reasons. It could be that where maybe that employee is not as a poor performer or whatever the case might be, and you might want to nitpick at little things. That could very well be the case. But at the same time, could also very well be the case, which we've seen in a lot of these cases that are put forward that have been now shed to light. There's a regulation that's taking place of Black women, of their bodies, of their hair, how they conduct themselves. Because white women have always been deemed, and white culture has always been deemed as superior.
True.
Anything that's superior, the dichotomy is superior, inferior, greater than, lesser than. And Black women has always fallen on the latter end of the spectrum, the lesser than, not good enough.
Inferior.
Right.
Inferiority.
And we compare ourselves to that. We want to be accepted. We want to feel accepted. We want to be recognized. And oftentimes it comes at the compromise of who we are or who we deem ourselves to be.
But do you think that could also be cultural?
And that brings me to my next point. Absolutely, because, Bell Hooks, she said that patriarchy and male domination has no gender. She said that women participate in that culture just as much as anyone else. And in using her quote, I also want to speak to the fact of when it comes to Black hair, Black women are staunch enforcers of what good hair is, what bad hair is. We've participated actively in that. No, don't wear your hair that way. It doesn't look good. It looks too nappy. What is that? What is wrong with nappy? Nappy against what? Conform to what? What do I need to manipulate my hair to look like? To appease who? So these are all things that we as Black women over the years, cultural, family of origin, we've all somehow participated in that passively, indirectly or directly.
Yes.
You know, sometimes, like, you know, I would just kind of listen to, you know, some of the ladies in my family and just talk about hair, and it's just like, wow, I'm surprised that even in the 21st century we're still holding on to these notions of good hair, you know, bad hair. Hair is just hair. But no, we've actively contributed to this as well.
And maybe this is why it's more visible out there, and it's affecting us. And maybe even because even somebody that's working in a workplace and they're told that they cannot stay there, they have to do something with their hair. I believe that they would develop some kind of emotional psychological effect eventually on the year, because now they don't have a job, because you know when you have employment it's everything, right? Because when you have money you can buy what you want, do what you want. But if you're in a position where you're making say 60,000 a year and all of a sudden you're down to nothing, it's going to affect you. But then would that individual go change because of their job, or would they want to just leave and start afresh? So it's a lot of issues here that us as a culture, us as a community, that we face on a daily basis.
Yes.
And it's very sad. I was blown away last night, even with a research that I did, that black hair alone like makes over $774 million every year in products, and we're encouraging this industry, you know, going out there purchasing. I mean, we still have to purchase hair care products, shampoos, conditioners, but that's all we basically need, and proper moisturizers.
Yes.
What about the days where people use coconut oil? You know, remember we used those back home, you know, and some people even use just the pure Vaseline.
Right.
You know, those don't use anymore. You know, you have all these, and I think a lot of industries, especially from China, because they're aware that we put so much emphasis on our hair, they keep producing different kind of enhancement.
Right.
I mean, I've gone into a beauty supply, I've seen a lace front wig for $900. Yes, 900. And I'm saying
that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a thing. And the younger generation, because my daughter, she'll spend $300-400
on a lace front.
Yeah. Or just for that look.
Right.
You know, plus not to mention makeup.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so because it goes hand in hand. Why? Why is the market gone so out of control? Like, you know, it's like a house. You know, house prices has gone ridiculous now.
Yes.
So is the product. And another thing that there's a big concern here though with health issues surrounding relaxers.
Yes.
And we need to make a note of that. That what I read, it says that we develop or could develop fibroids from relaxer, as well as damaged hair and hair loss.
Yes, alopecias. These are all things that could happen over extended use of, you know, these harsh chemicals that we're leaving on our scalp for an extended period of time. And for those who like have scalp sensitivities over time, continually engaging in that practice can lead to absolutely like damaged follicles and you know, hair not being able to be replaced, significant damages, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think the more that we can conform back to the natural hair, the better it is. Like for me, myself, I don't wear wigs because of the fact of I'm ashamed of my hair. It's just for convenience, right? That's my thing for wearing them. Or if I do, and furthermore, my hair is very fine.
Okay.
right? So especially in the summertime, it just blows away if I wear it in an afro, right? So to control it, I said, okay, let me wear a wig or do a weave or a braid. But it's not because I'm ashamed of my hair why I wear wigs. Some people may, but I'm not,
Right.
right? So, just to make that clear,
And
right?
it's important to assert that because, you know, Chimamanda Adichie talks about the danger of a single story, and us having this critical conversation, it would be very remiss of us to just state that, Black women are altering their hair or making modifications or concealing their natural hair because they want to conform, when in many instances that's just not the case. It's about convenience. It's about, what, I lead a very busy lifestyle. Who cares what I put on my head? I'm doing it because I need to get to work. I need to get to the next task at hand.
Exactly.
And for those reasons, do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But we're speaking and we're having this conversation for those instances where that's not the case. You're concealing your hair. You're wearing the wig. You're wearing the weave. You're wearing the relaxer because you want to conform to these pervasive beauty standards that are centered on your centricity. And that's where, it becomes a problem because you now are seeing yourself not fitting in.
No identity.
Exactly. So for that, no, these are topics that we need to address if in fact you're wearing these modifications for those purposes. At the end of the day, do I care how Black women wear their hair, what they do with their hair? Absolutely not. I'm not a regulator of any Black body, anybody per se. But I just think it's important that whatever we're doing, we should do it consciously. We should do it from a place that we know why we're doing it, and it's something that overall will contribute to our well-being. I think it's very, very perilous to do something because we feel that we have to. And the whole regulation of Black hair really comes down to, the regulation of Black women's bodies. The very existence of the Black woman here was based on forced migration. Our very existence was to be a ruling labor force. So we were never seen as, a woman, all those idealized standards and notions that are about womanhood, like you're pious and you're virtuous and you are noble, you're wonderful. We were never claimed those accolades because we were seen as beasts of burden. We were seen as a labor force. So in many ways, Black women have been violated of our gendered identities.
Yes.
So if we're in violation of that, anything that we do becomes something that has to be policed, has to be regulated, has to be scrutinized, has to be controlled, has to be suppressed. And there's always that constant fight, that constant battle to bring these issues to light and to express against these systems of oppression.
And I am going to agree with you there, because it doesn't matter where we go, even now in schools, again, workplaces, no matter where we go, there's always somebody don't think of us as being capable of, being there or capable of doing whatever is put forward. And what I mean by that is you may be well educated as a Black woman, and then you have these European people that comes in with lesser education, yet they're given the position.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because of the color.
Absolutely.
And I don't believe that those are right, And another thing, that's why we should start building institutions for ourselves. Because I think if we have those institutions, then we can be able to employ our own. We can be able to be our own bosses, be able to make our own decisions. We don't have to go out there, in other communities to seek their advice, to seek their help. Right? And culturally, even the food we eat at times sometimes becomes an issue, right? Because they would think of it as being gross, and what they eat is normal, while that's what we're brought up on, that's what we're used to. And I remember I did a sociology course years ago, and one of the things I taught in there in terms of culture that every culture is different.
Right.
And that course taught me that. You have to understand culture.
Yeah.
So what might be acceptable to you in our culture may not be acceptable in the next culture.
Absolutely.
Right. So we have to be careful what we say at times, how we say it, especially in a city like this, we're so multicultural.
We do need to exercise cultural sensitivity and not pit each culture against the next, but instead try to understand and learn from different cultures, because every culture is rich in their own right and in their own respect. And I think it's very negligent if we would pit ourselves against a culture, against a cultural practice. I think we should be striving to understand and to learn and to grow and to build some sort of cohesion amongst various communities.
Yes, so I think we're gonna close off, and maybe at another time we can continue, maybe to do a follow up on what's happening out there. But did you want to share anything from your paper that you did there years ago, or you want to close off?
I would just close off just by saying that for Black women in particular, I just want us to get to a place where we don't need to think about our hair. Like, hair for me is just something that's so trivial. And when I say don't think about our hair, I'm talking in the context of not obsessing over it, and not obsessing over it because you want to fit in. You feel like you need to conform. You feel like you need to be seen as acceptable, and engaging in these representational politics of what is good hair, what is bad hair. I think we need to be done away with these things. Frantz Fanon said in his book, The Wretched of the Earth, that imperialism has left behind not only germs of rot in our lands that we have to purge, but we also have to purge them from our mind. And when we subscribe to these things, when we internalize them, these are germs of rot. They fester away and they manifest into copious things, and how we conduct ourselves, what we accept as true, what we tell our children, other generations. And I think we need to dismantle that. We need to address that. And we need to engage in a new narrative that speaks of acceptance, appreciation, self-love, no more self-deprecating. I think that when we could have these conversations and we can engage in these practices, it's a positive step out of many steps that we could take forward in building and bridging significant gaps that have transpired and infused within our society over time.
Yes, and I'm gonna add to that, also saying that I like you mentioned about the bridging. We need to bridge, even as female Black women, and there's some very strong Black women in our community, not just here but around the world. And I think if we can all come together in unifying ourselves to make, especially our hair, be that, even that topic that we discuss, even within our household, even within, no matter where we go, it becomes a topic that we can be proud of, right? I've seen a lot of videos surfacing about our hair, really nice, beautiful hair, out of Africa. And I think we should pursue that, continue it, and maybe that will help our younger generation that's coming up to understand who they are, starting with their hair.
Absolutely.
Yes, so thank you, Christine, for taking the time out on this miserable day to sit down with this conversation. But I know that you're so much into skin color, in terms, when I mean skin color, in terms of our culture, who we are. And as an individual myself, I admire you as one of those strong Black young female women.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and all the best in your final year.
Thank you.
And of university, and hopefully we will sit down again, and maybe we may see something better coming out of this in terms of natural, over kinky Black hair.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.